Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
Konoha is one of the 5 great hidden villages. Every shinobi of this world knew what kind of village it was, of course, because it was founded by 2 of the strongest people in the history of shinobi. There were many legends about them, some of them go around the world to this day. Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju named them the gods of the shinobi world for their outstanding abilities, and no less outstanding strength. Leaf, Mist, Cloud, Sand and Stone are all conditioned names of the 5 great villages, whose influence has spread to the whole world. At the moment, everyone is living in relative peace, and all thanks to the deterrent factor of tailed animals. Biju is a clot of natural energy that can be sealed into a person, which gives him great strength, and at the same time great responsibility. The people in whom the tailed one was sealed are called Jinchuriki. There are 9 tailed animals in the world. One of these Jinchuriki lives in Konoha, Naruto, Uzumaki Jinchuriki Ninetailed, who is hated and despised by the whole village. All because 8 years ago, the Ninetailed destroyed almost the entire village. Corpses of children and old people lay everywhere. The beast was sealed again, but at the cost of the life of the 4th Hokage and his wife. Since those days, 8 years have passed, and the guys still consider the Ninetailed and are afraid of his next one. The coming, although there were no reasons for this yet. Look, this garbage has gone out into the street again, when it's already dead. A blonde man in black breeches and a t-shirt of the same color heard out of the corner of his ear. Naruto didn't even look at the one who said it. He was already used to being called that and wishing him death. I hope it will be in the near future, a woman said. Apparently, pictures from the past are still alive in her memory. Naruto has never understood why everyone hates him so much, why he is the one, what he did, what this attitude is towards him. What the hell are you doing here again? Once again, Naruto heard. Raising his eyes, he saw the Sailor-Ramen, who looked at the guy with hatred. I didn't have time to say anything at Uzumaki, as he was hit on the head. My eyes began to darken, and my ears rang. But now he is definitely a corpse, said the unknown, whose facial features Naruto could no longer see. A blow to the ribs plunged the guy into the depths of pain and despair. This is finally going to end. Death, deliverance, Naruto thought after another blow that seemed to have broken a couple of ribs. Die. All the guy heard before he lost consciousness. Hey, what the hell are you doing here? A girl of about 12 asked. Her black hair was blowing in the wind, and her blood-red eyes looked at Chunin and the cook with contempt. Damn it! The man who was beating the blonde man whispered, and was already beginning to justify himself, but he was interrupted. Go away, the girl said, picking up the blonde man. There was an Uchiha sign on the sleeve of her jacket. Isn't that all? The guy asked himself, filling his lungs once again. Unfortunately or fortunately, but no, there was a rude, but at the same time kind voice. Quickly crouching down and opening his eyes, Naruto saw a strange old man, who was floating in the air. Who are you? The blonde man asked with fear in his voice, getting ready for a fight. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I came just to talk. My name is Hagoromo Atsutsuki. Kindly smiling, the old man said. And about what? Naruto asked tensely, still not understanding where he was. Now you are in your subconscious after you were beaten. I know how you live, because I've been watching you for a long time. You are the child of prophecy, who is destined to save or destroy this world. You may not believe me, but there's no point in me lying to you, because I've been dead for a long time, and I can't do anything to you. But why did tears flow from the blonde's eyes, which he could not stop in any way? What have I done to deserve all this? I do not know the answer to this question, but I have one suggestion for you, the old man said, patting the boy's hair. Naruto looked at Atsutsuki questioningly. The good-natured smile aroused confidence in the blonde, And anyway, he has been ready for death for a long time, so he has nothing to lose. You have to become stronger, but I can't teach you, so you will go back to the past, where you will find a teacher. This is the best option where no one knows about you, and you can easily make friends or find a mentor. There's just one problem. Hagoromo stopped abruptly, looking at the guy who, apparently, was considering all his words. And what, a couple of minutes later, Naruto asked, the technique with which I will send you back in time will only work for 5 years. During this time, you must become stronger to fulfill the prophecy. Although I cannot influence you, I hope that you will choose the right path and not destroy this world. I agree, I don't care what happens to me anymore, Naruto answered honestly, looking at the old man. Kurama, don't you dare disturb or offend him. Smiling, it folds up. Putting the seals in, Atsutsuki said, whatever path you choose, know that there will be people who will understand and accept you. God put 2 fingers to the blonde man's forehead, after which he lost consciousness. A cool wind blew over the blonde, and the tall grass occasionally touched his body. The cry of the crows brought Naruto out of his dream. Crouching down, he looked around. The guy was in a clearing, surrounded by tall and massive trees. The sun was hidden behind clouds, only a few of its rays reached the ground. Where am I? The blonde man asked himself, marveling at the virginally beautiful nature. Remembering a recent event, the guy came to the conclusion that he is in the past, but in what time period exactly? I need to get to some village. I think I'll find out everything there. That's just where to go, the blonde thought, looking around again, as if looking for a clue. Getting to his feet, and noticing with surprise that his ribs, which were broken, did not hurt at all, Naruto wandered off. After a few minutes, he came out of the forest, and a village appeared before his eyes, in which he could hardly, but still recognize Konoha. It's much smaller than in my time, Uzumaki thought, walking slowly towards the village. And what should I do? Already approaching the first houses, flashed through the blonde's head. From somewhere from the side, the sounds of a battle were heard, which attracted the guy's attention. And he wandered in the direction from which they came. Coming out into the clearing, he saw shinobi using fire techniques. He's probably training, the guy thought, sitting down on the grass. Naruto wanted to watch him train, but he still needed to. It was necessary to find a worthy teacher who could teach him all the basics of shinobi. Who are you? Turning to Naruto, asked a tall brunette with long hair and in red armor. Naruto. The blonde man briefly introduced himself, looking into the eyes of the brunette. I haven't seen you here before, where are you from? Shinobi asked seriously. I'm from Konoha, a small village, but it's unlikely that you could remember me. Who are you? With irritation in his voice, the man asked the question again. Naruto. The blonde man also answered him with irritation. Within seconds, his hair was waving, and a one-handed braid was placed at his throat. I ask you again, who are you? My name is Naruto, I'm from Konoha. With indifference, looking into the eyes of the brunette, the guy answered without even moving. If you're from Konoha, you should know who I am. Say my name. A cold look seemed to burn through the blonde, forcing him to open his mouth and say, I do not know who you are, after all. Should I tell the first person I meet about who I am? Naruto thought, interrupting the sentence. I'm Naruto Uzumaki from Konoha, but I'm from the future. The blonde man answered coldly and with indifference, looking at the landscape that opened behind the brunette. Are you kidding with me? Not even in my thoughts. From the future you say, Naruto just nodded. So what's there in the future? Removing the braid from the guy's neck, the brunette asked. Nothing interesting. The whole village hates me and wants me dead, and I don't even know why. How did you end up in our time? Realizing that the guy is not dangerous, the man sat down on the grass not far from the blonde. You should at least introduce yourself, otherwise Madara Uchiha. For a few seconds, surprise was visible in the blonde's eyes. I really didn't think that I would be thrown into your temporary segment, Naruto replied, looking at the shinobi god. So Madara's interest there in the future was quite conditioned, yet everyone is interested in what will happen in a few years. Or even dozens. like I said, nothing interesting. If you are interested in something specific, then ask questions, I will try to answer them. Lying on his back, Naruto said, who is Hokage now? Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage. Before him was the fourth Minato Namikaze, who died in a fight with the Nine-Tail, thereby protecting the village at the cost of his life. What is the current state of the village? I can't say for sure, but it seems to be in good condition. The guy's answer amused Madara a little. How did you get into our days? Some strange old man appeared in my subconscious after I was beaten up on the street once again. I think his name was Hagoromo Etsutsuki, and he said something about me being a child from a prophecy that is destined to either destroy this world or save it. It was he who sent me to your time, saying that I should find a mentor and become stronger. I see, but do you know that you met God himself in the literal sense of the word? Madara asked, who was shocked by what he heard. No, I didn't know that, Naruto replied, closing his eyes. So you need a teacher, and you're the guy from the prophecy? Yes, Madara asked, looking at the blonde. If you believe me, then yes, if not, then any of my words have no weight. I believe you, but why can't I tell you? Madara answered, looking into the distance. This pleases. I would not like the shinobi god to become my enemy, Naruto replied with a grin. That in our time you and Hashirama were called the shinobi gods for your unimaginable strength. I think everyone in this world has heard of you at least once. Madara, so that's where the hell you are. I can't find you for what hour? A tall, dark-haired man in a white kimono shouted. And who is this? Running closer to his friend, Hashirama asked. This is Naruto Uzumaki, my student, Madara said, looking at his friend. What? Hashirama was as surprised as Naruto. This is Naruto Uzumaki, my student, calmly repeated Uchiha. I haven't seen you before, where are you from, Naruto? Kindly smiling, Senju asked. I'm from a village near Kanahi, Naruto said, a little lost. And what did you manage to interest Madara in? The first Hokage asked with interest. I have no idea, Naruto answered honestly. What the hell is going on here anyway? Naruto thought to himself, and looked at Uchiha, who was sitting quietly, and looking at the blonde. However, I needed a teacher. This is not such a bad option, Naruto thought. Exhaling loudly and closing his eyes, he enjoyed the nature of her silence. However, I needed a teacher. This is not such a bad option, Naruto thought. Exhaling loudly and closing his eyes, he enjoyed the nature of her silence. So why did you come? Addressing Hashirama, asked a question from a sneeze. Oh right, I need help with the affairs of the village, Hokage replied, scratching his head, and smiling stupidly. As usual, Madara sighed, getting to his feet. I'm sorry, Hashirama replied, laughing loudly. Madara crossed his fingers, and an exact copy of him appeared next to him. I need to leave, my clone will study with you. When it dissipates, then I will get all the knowledge that the doppelganger received. Madara replied, and headed towards the village with Hashirama. Well, tell me, how could he interest you? Having already moved a decent distance from the clearing, Hashirama again asked the question he was interested in. Probably because he looks like me in some way. In his eyes, I didn't see the spark of life that you have, for example. There is also indifference and detachment in his gaze, which was in my eyes after the loss of my brother. Now it's clear, but still I haven't seen him in Kanaka or in the nearby villages before. This is already his secret. If he wants to, he will tell you, Madara said mysteriously, speeding up his step. Meanwhile, in the clearing, Naruto was carefully looking at the Uchiha clone, trying to notice some differences. What do you know about ninjutsu? Nothing. As I have already said, the whole village hated me. They wanted me dead. I was not allowed to go to the library or to the shops. I've been chasing it everywhere. It complicates the process, but I think you can handle it. After all, you want to become stronger. A calm and at the same time serious voice reached the blonde's ears. This question somewhat put the guy in a stupor, but after thinking for a couple of minutes, he realized that if he became stronger, he would not lose from this. But I want to, Naruto coldly replied, looking at the clouds, which were countless today. Then I'll bring you some books that you'll have to read. Turning around, Madara replied, you won't mind if you stay in my house, will you? It's better this way, I don't mind, Naruto said and, getting to his feet, followed Madara. Well, I have exciting years of life ahead of me. I hope the old man was right, and they won't hate me here, Naruto thought, looking at the cloudy sky. It's probably going to rain. Dark clouds have almost completely covered the entire sky, preventing even the rare rays of the sun from falling on the ground. Let's go quickly, otherwise the weather is spoiling. Madara slightly quickened his pace, but Naruto could barely keep up with him. Madara herself, what are the fates to us? A young guy with black hair asked. I need books about the chakra, everything that is studied at the very beginning. Briefly, but to the point, Uchiha replied. Don't be rude, but what do you need them for? Madara only pointed at the blond man standing behind him. Really? Susa asked in shock, to which the head of the Uchiha clan only nodded silently. Hell, this, apparently, is not even a child from the Uchiha clan. Why did Madara choose him herself? It should have been me, Uchiha thought viciously to himself with well-concealed hatred in his voice. And in his eyes, he looked at Naruto. I'll get everything now, wait a bit. Susa disappeared behind the bookshelves. Be careful with the Uchiha, they are all liars and traitors, the blonde thought in his head. This voice was somehow unfamiliar, but at the same time native, as if he had been with him all his life. Who are you? I mentally asked Naruto a question, but he never got an answer. The mysterious voice bothered the guy a lot, but he didn't want to ask anyone. Here are all the books that he will need, replied Susa, and smiled kindly, looking at Naruto. I'm going to kill this kid. Thank you. Thanked a member of the Uchiha clan. Naruto, having invented books, followed Madara, memorizing the way to my house. I think everything has changed dramatically in your time. Naruto only nodded weakly. Right now, he wasn't thinking about memorizing the way about the strange voice in his head. Damn, but what is this? Naruto thought, raising his blue eyes to the sky, as if looking for answers to his questions there. Here we are. You need to read these books in a week. I'll test your knowledge, then we'll practice. Putting a hefty pile of books on an oak table, Madara said. All right. I haven't read books before, I think it will be interesting, Naruto thought, taking the first book he came across. The Chakra was the title of a thick-bound book. After opening the book, Naruto began to read. It did not cause any difficulties, the language has not changed since that time. And the old man taught Naruto to read and write. Probably, this was the only thing that Hiruzen did for the boy, although he certainly could have done much more. A loud bang distracted the blonde from reading, and when he turned around, he saw white smoke, which gradually dissipated. But Madara's clone was nowhere to be found. Naruto did not dwell on it much, and therefore plunged back into reading. As he had expected, it was an interesting activity. He hadn't received so much new information for a long time. Each line, each letter drew him more and more into the cycle of sentences. The information was easily assimilated, and therefore it was not necessary to reread the same thing several times. In order to understand the meaning inherent in the lines, the guy didn't even notice how he read the first book. Taijutsu, putting the book about the chakra aside, the guy took a new book that described melee techniques, as well as some exercises that will help you train your body. So the rest of the day passed. It was already evening outside the window. Frequent lightning lit up the streets, and heavy rain rattled on the roof, as if beating off some kind of melody. The typical smell of dampness and freshness appeared on the street, which usually happens either after the rain or during the rain. This weather, of course, liked the blonde. It was in this weather that he went out for a walk at one time, because most people are sitting in their homes, and they don't care about him. Could this be a new page? Naruto suddenly asked himself a question, putting another book aside, noticing with surprise that he had already read everything. Although the reading was interesting, fascinating, but the guy was very tired. There was too much information. The brain was just tired. He needed it. I needed a rest. After looking a little out of the window, the guy lay down on the sofa that stood in the living room and fell asleep. Madara returned home closer to the morning of the next day. There was too much work where his help was needed. Although Madara did not show it, but he greatly valued his friendship with Hashirama, probably because this was his only and true friend, to whom he would always come to the rescue. Going home, Uchiha saw a sleeping blonde on the couch and, quietly closing the door, also went to sleep. Naruto opened his eyes and was surprised to notice that he woke up not at Madara's house at all, but in some kind of sewer, where the water was ankle-deep. Is it really all a dream? But then, where am I? The guy said his thoughts out loud. No, it was not a dream. The same voice rang out as then, not like a human, rude and bestial. Who are you and where am I? Naruto asked into the void. There are too many questions, choose one that I will answer you. Again, a voice came from somewhere in the darkness. Then, after a little thought, Naruto decided to find out who his interlocutor was. Who are you? Nine-tailed demon fox, Kabinu Yoka, so it seems you call me. In the darkness, two red eyes with a vertically elongated pupil lit up. What do you call yourself? What is your real name? Naruto asked in a calm, even voice. It's too early for you to know. After a few minutes of silence, Leaf answered. It's been a long time since anyone asked me my name. All that was required of me was strength. I've already started to forget my name, thought the fox, carefully studying the guy standing in front of him. If you don't want to talk, then it's your business, but I'd like to know a couple of things, Naruto said, sitting down right in front of the cage that appeared out of the darkness. You understand that I am not obliged to answer your questions, putting my muzzle on my paws, the fox replied. Of course, where am? In your subconscious. Then what are you doing in my subconscious? Naruto asked, already guessing. You know that the fourth Hokage defeated me 8 years ago. Naruto just nodded, after which the fox continued to speak. So, he sealed me in one of the newborn children who happened to be nearby. So you became a Jinchuriki. That's why everyone hated you. They thought you were me. Now it's clear. There's probably only one question left, Naruto said thoughtfully. The fox looked at the guy questioningly. Why me? Although I probably don't regret it, if Hokage hadn't sealed you into me, none of this would have happened, Naruto said, and looked at the fox. It's time for you to get back, Kyuubi said quietly and calmly, after which he threw the blonde out of his own subconscious. And he, an interesting fellow, is not a child of prophecy for nothing, Kurama thought. After the conversation with Naruto, the fox had two feelings. On the one hand, he was surprised that the guy was not afraid of him, did not ask. So already hated for so many years of power, and even on the contrary, tried to find out something about him. For example, his name. But on the other hand, after so many years of his life, Kyuubi realized that there was no point in trusting people, in the end. They would ask him for strength and respect anyway. To him as to a demon. Such thoughts completely filled Noyak's mind, and he plunged into thought. And is it worth trusting one of the people? Even if it is a child from the prophecy, or staying true to your beliefs that appeared as a result? His long life. Which way should I choose? Kyuubi thought, looking into the distance subconsciously. Opening his half-asleep eyes, Naruto saw Madara, who was sitting at the table, eating something. Good morning, yawning widely, Naruto said, to which Madara only nodded. I've read all the books you gave me. What now? After looking at a bunch of books, the blonde asked, after which he turned his gaze to the teacher. I will leave again today, but I will leave the clone, you will learn chakra control. Nodding, the guy sat down at the table and began to eat. After a couple of hours, the blonde finally more or less woke up and could start training. Let's go outside, said the clone who appeared out of the white smoke. Naruto followed Madara, wishing the original good luck. Sit down comfortably, since you have read all the books, I think you should not explain what a chakra is and how to feel it. Naruto just nodded and, remembering what was written in the book, sat down in a comfortable position for himself. Madara silently watched the actions of his disciple, closely following his every action. 2 hours later, the training finally made itself felt. I think I felt it, but when I opened my eyes and looked at the teacher, Naruto said. Madara looked at him questioningly, after which the boy continued. I feel 2 centers of chakra, one, of course, is mine, but the second one. Describe these 2 sources of chakra to me, maybe it will help. The first one is calm and non-hostile, blue in color, but the second one is like a red-orange color, angry and hostile. Maybe, Naruto thought, remembering the events of last night. This happens only in one case, at least, I know of only one. If you're a Jinchuriki, but what kind of beast was sealed in you? Madara asked thoughtfully. I think I know. Still not completely confident, Naruto said. Yesterday, I got into my subconscious, where I was talking to a fox. He introduced himself to Yoko's Cuban. He explained to me that it was because he was sealed in me, that the residents hated a little boy named Naruto so much. Now it's clear, this opens up new opportunities for you. If you make friends with a fox, you can increase your strength many times. Naruto listened attentively to his teacher, simultaneously recalling yesterday's conversation with the fox. Maybe one day we will make friends with him, Naruto thought and looked at the sky. Okay, since you were able to feel the chakra, now you need to learn how to control it. Naruto nodded and, getting to his feet, approached his teacher. To begin with, you will have to climb to the top of this tree. While saying this, Madara began to slowly enter the tree, using only his legs. Naruto looked at Uchiha in shock, not understanding how this was possible. All his ideas about the world were collapsing before his eyes. This can only be done if you give the chakra to the legs, but here you need to be careful. If you give too much chakra, you will break a tree, and then you will fall, and if you give a little chakra, you will just fall. To apply the chakra to your legs, you need to imagine that the chakra flows throughout your body like water, and mentally. You have to concentrate a certain amount of chakra in your legs. You will find the proportions of the given chakra yourself, Madara said, sitting down near one of the trees. Naruto was a smart guy, probably genes played here, because his father was the most brilliant shinobi in the world, whom everyone was afraid of. There were many legends and stories about him. The chakra is like water, Naruto thought, looking at the overcast sky. Closing his eyes, Naruto began to concentrate the chakra in his legs. After a couple of minutes, Naruto still decided to try climbing the tree, but he did not succeed. He almost immediately follows. It looks like there is too little chakra. It's harder than I thought. We still need to maintain the optimal amount of chakra in the legs, Naruto thought, feeding the chakras into the legs again. But only this time much more. After Naruto took 3 steps and it was already there. I began to rejoice at my success. The tree flew apart. Splinters, branches, all this flew in different directions, trying to hook the nearest people. Drops of blood dripped from the sleeve of the blonde, then fell, breaking on the cold ground. He has such a dense chakra, Madara thought, surprised, who was carefully watching his students' training. Aye. Putting his hand on the wound, Naruto said. Too much chakra, but I was warned, Naruto thought, and then once again closed his eyes and began to imagine. Exhaling deeply, he placed his foot on the wide trunk of an ancient tree. Taking step by step, Naruto slowly climbed up, trying to keep a certain amount of chakra for his ascent. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw Konoha from a height of several tens of meters. I did it. The feeling of euphoria clouded the blonde's mind, but it didn't matter now. Quickly descending to the ground, Naruto saw Madara, who was already waiting for him. I did it, Naruto said happily. As you could already understand, the spark of life is slowly starting to flare up with a strong fire in the soul of a blonde. Well done. Now you need to sharpen the supply of chakra in the legs to a habit. Shinobi often travels in the upper ways and at speed. You will not have time to monitor concentration. Your chakra. You need to get into the habit of feeding a certain amount of chakra into your legs. Since you have already climbed to the top of the tree, you know how much chakra you should give to your feet, which means it will be easy," said Uchiha, looking at his own. The student. "Still, I'm glad I took him on as an apprentice. I myself have already forgotten how to enjoy life with these endless wars and battles. I've already forgotten what it means to be human. However, this kid, I think we will help each other find fire in the eyes and the desire to live," Madara thought, looking at the sky, as if waiting for an answer from him. "I hope that's what you wanted, Izuna." After a couple of hours, Naruto was finally able to bring the amount of chakra supplied to his legs to the ideal. Now he could do it unconsciously. In other words, it became a habit. "Great, you're learning much faster than I thought," Madara answered honestly. "Then you'll have to learn to walk on water. It's a lot harder than wood, but I think you can handle it." For example, Uchiha entered the water surface and reached the middle of the lake, after which he returned back to the shore. Having given the same amount of chakra to his legs, the blonde walked up to the lake and stepped on the water, but immediately fell through and began to go under the water. What the hell? The cold water hampered his movement, which made it more difficult for him. Surfacing, Naruto looked at his teacher in surprise. "I told you it would be harder. You have to constantly change the amount of chakra in your legs due to the frequent fluctuations of the water. Here again, practice is needed. The more you train, the faster you will be able to walk or stand on the water without making much effort, even without noticing it yourself." Sitting down under a tree, Madara replied. "I see," Naruto said quietly, crawling out onto the shore. It was only in the evening that Naruto finally managed to finish today's training. When he finally walked through the water from one edge to the other, pretty tired and soaked, Naruto approached his teacher. "Well done, now go home. I'll be back late today, you don't have to wait," the clone said, and then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. It seems that it will rain again soon, Naruto thought, looking at the dark clouds. Slightly accelerating his pace, Naruto went towards the house to change into dry clothes, something to eat, and go to bed. "I wonder what I'm going to do tomorrow. Maybe it's chakra control again," Naruto thought, looking out the window, behind which the bad weather was already raging. It seems that a little more, and the wind will uproot the centuries-old trees and carry them away somewhere in the distance. After Naruto had a snack, he went to bed. In the end, tomorrow will be a hard day, just like the previous one. Today, he was very tired and exhausted, and therefore did not even notice how he fell asleep. Opening his sleepy eyes, Naruto found himself back in that strange sewer. "I'm here again," Naruto said in a barely audible voice. "I called you here." The fox answered reluctantly, big red eyes glittering in the dark. "For what?" Sitting down near the cage, Naruto asked. "Break the seal." "Okay, but only after you tell me why." "You know, it's cramped in here, actually," said the fox, averting his eyes all the time. "I think right now is the best time for them to meet," Leaf thought. "Okay, I believe you," Naruto said and, jumping up, tore off the seal. At the same moment, someone pushed him aside. "What are you doing?" A man's voice rang out throughout the subconscious. "What are you doing? Who are you anyway?" Getting to his feet, Naruto asked, then looked at the one who kicked him. "Fourth. What the hell? What are you doing?" A man's voice rang out throughout the subconscious. "What are you doing? Who are you anyway?" Getting to his feet, Naruto asked, then looked at the one who kicked him. "Fourth. What the hell? Naruto, break the seal, you need to see someone else besides your father." The fox's voice rang out in the silence. Naruto asked his father uncomprehendingly, after which, apparently realizing that the fourth was his father, he sank to the floor. They fell silent, glaring at the Ninetales. Minato said, "It's you who shut up. Do you at least understand what kind of life you have doomed your son to? Although the point of asking, of course, you don't understand. Tear the seal to the end, I won't do anything, but I think Naruto will be glad to see his mother. You have something to talk about, and then you can seal me up again. Since when did you become so kind? Minato asked skeptically, turning away from Kyubi. You idiot! The fox barked, but a second later, Naruto was standing in front of him, who opened the seal with one movement. Still not rusted steel steels. They opened with a bang, releasing the fox into the wild. What did you do? In an instant, standing in front of his son and preparing for battle, Minato asked. The fox, contrary to the expectations of the fourth, just lay down, putting his head on his paws, watching three people already. Minato, Naruto, two blondes heard a woman's voice. Almost simultaneously turning around, they saw a red-haired woman. Kushina, smiling warmly, said to Minato, after which he cautiously shifted his gaze to the fox. Naruto, I think they will explain everything to you themselves. I will feed you with my chakra so that you do not disappear prematurely. Addressing those who sealed him inside the little boy, Kyubi said, Damn, we'll deal with you later. Now there are more important things to do. Minato changed the world around them with a sewer to a green forest with one click. Naruto, as you have grown up, I did not think that I would see you so big. Having run into a blonde with hugs, the woman said. Tears of joy and sadness rolled down her cheeks. So you, my parents? Asked Naruto, who still didn't understand the whole situation he found himself in. After seeing two nods, he continued. But how? After all, you died. Why are you near me now? This can't be a dream, I guess. Before I died, I sealed a certain amount of our chakra together with the fox to help you in the battle with the fox, said Minato, who sat down next to his son and gently patted him on the head. Tears ran out of my eyes by themselves. Naruto finally found out who his parents were. He will be able to find out why they sealed into him personally. The fox, thereby condemning him to the hatred of the whole village. Then why did you seal the fox in me? Why me? Naruto asked, looking sadly at his family. Forgive us, Naruto, we could not have imagined that you would be treated like this, that they would blame you. In our death, in the deaths of their relatives and friends. But we had no other choice, the masked man attacked at the most inopportune moment. How do you know all this? Although we are only projections of the chakra, but we have been watching you since your childhood, we can say that we have always been. Or nearby, even though they couldn't help you. Since you have seen everything, I think there is no point in telling you what is happening with my life now, and where fate has brought me. Minato and Kushina just nodded, looking affectionately at their child. Tell us about yourself, about how you lived. Old Man 3 never told me who my parents were. Of course, we will tell you, although we don't have much time, but I think we will have time. Kushina said with a smile, sitting down next to Naruto. That's our whole story. Soon our time will come to an end. I would like to say a couple of parting words to you, or something, Kushina said with a sad smile. No one wanted to say goodbye to each other, especially when they first met. So many words have not been said yet. When you return to your time, then find Jiraiya. He is your godfather and will definitely help you. Be careful, don't even think about dying until you're at least 80. Kushina smiled, a lump rose treacherously in her throat, and tears flowed down her cheeks. Eat only healthy food, and most importantly be careful, and remember that we love you, and will always look out for you. Minato finished his wife's words. Both silhouettes lit up with a bright, eye-cutting light, starting to slowly disappear. I love you, Mom, Dad, Naruto said already into the void. The guy again found himself in the sewer, already familiar to the eye, next to the lying fox. Thank you, wiping tears with his hand, Naruto said. Kurama. The fox decided everything for himself at the first meeting. Naruto only smiled faintly, he was morally devastated, too much had fallen on him lately, and therefore he needed. It's time to digest and accept everything. I'm sorry, Kurama, but I want to sleep. Lying down on the floor and closing his eyes, the guy said. I hope I made the right choice, Kurama thought, looking at the blonde. 2 years later, a noticeably grown-up blonde man was sitting on a mountain with the faces of Hokage, watching the village that was drowning in the rays of the setting sun. The warm summer air stirred the already restless hair, which had grown a lot, and the blonde's hairstyle became similar to Madara's hairstyle. Over these 2 years, Naruto has certainly become much stronger. He has mastered the element of fire almost perfectly. Of course, the power did not come to him just like that, all thanks to his work. Daily hours of training greatly exhausted the blonde, but made him stronger day after day. "You're here again." Madara's now familiar voice was heard. Turning around, Naruto saw his teacher, who had not changed a little over the past time. And what else to do? After all, Hokage still hasn't assigned me a mission, and I need to gain experience. The guy complained, smiling slightly. "I've already found it." Uchiha will answer briefly, but succinctly, after which, turning around, he went towards the residence. "Well, then let's go, there's nothing to wait for." Rising from the green grass, Naruto followed Madara, scattering along the way. Looking at the village from a height, Kanaka has grown a lot. There are a lot more new residents, clans and tourists who sometimes visit the village. Slowly but surely, the village begins to grow and strengthen its position in the world. "Naruto, be careful, I have a bad feeling," rang in the guy's head. It was Kurama, who became very friendly with the blonde. Well, Naruto agreed with him, who is also tormented by a sense of danger all day. But he only threw it off on excitement before the first mission. Behind his thoughts, Naruto did not notice how they reached the Hokage residence. Going inside, Naruto saw Hashirama sitting at a table in a white kimono. "Naruto, I've been waiting for you." As always, the leader of not only the village, but also one of the strongest clans, said with a warm smile. "Senjo, hi, Hashirama. Over the past 2 years, he and Naruto have become like brothers. I finally found a mission for you, but there's just one catch." After a pause, he continued seriously. "You will need to destroy a group of 4 Nukanins. They should be in one of the villages near Kanahi. The shinobi of our village, Susa Uchiha, will go with you. He has his own motive. These bastards killed his whole family. Do you agree?" Hashirama looked at Naruto expectantly, waiting for his answer. "Okay, when to go out?" "Susa is waiting for you at the village gate." Naruto waved goodbye and left the office, heading for the exit of the village. "Be careful," said Madara, passing by. Of course. Naruto disappeared into Shunshin. The bright moon, like the sun, illuminated the whole of Kanaha. Naruto slowly approached the exit of the village, where Susa was already waiting for him. "The sky is beautiful today, isn't it?" Susa asked, smiling kindly. Indeed, the sky was really beautiful, an infinite number of stars, which were clearly visible. "Well, let's go, transfer your view to Susa," Naruto asked. Yeah, 2 shinobi headed towards the exit from Kanahi. The smell of fresh grass and air, the rustling of leaves, and the creaking of mighty trees, the rare sounds of forest dwellers. This is how the Kanahi night forest looked and sounded. "We are heading west, already going by the upper ways," said Susa. "It's strange, if you go west from Kanahi, then the nearest village will not be very soon," Naruto thought. But did not give a turn to his thoughts. After all, they killed the whole family of Susa. Which means that he should have already found out about the apostates. Everything that is possible. "What do you know about their abilities?" Naruto asked, jumping over another branch that creaked under his weight. "Practically nothing you need to know," Susa replied coldly. "I don't like it. Be extremely careful." There was a fox growl in Naruto's head. "There's something wrong here. I'm missing literally one detail to put the whole puzzle together." Damn, Naruto thought, following Susa, will be there soon, Uchiha said, turning back. Some kind of unkind impatience flashed in his eyes for a second, which did not go unnoticed by Naruto. After 10 minutes, Susa signaled to stop. Something is wrong, these thoughts, like knives, tormented Naruto's mind. "I'm missing something." Naruto was closely watching Susa, who moved forward. Let's go, we've already been spotted anyway. It will be much easier to fight on the edge of the forest than in the forest, he said and jumped down from the tree onto the path. Coming to the edge of the forest, the two shinobi began to look around in search of enemies. Well, hello, you're not looking for us by any chance, a voice came from somewhere behind. Quickly turning around, Naruto saw four Nukenins. Cautiously glancing at Suza, he saw an evil smile on his face. I think I understood, the thoughts came later than the body reacted. With a quick movement, Suza took out the katana that rested on the left side and tried to cut the blonde in half. Only Naruto quickly jumped back. Now everything is clear. If you hadn't said there were 5 renegades, I wouldn't even have thought, Naruto said, getting ready for a fight. I don't care anymore, you're a corpse anyway. Suza showed something to his subordinates, and they ran straight at Naruto, simultaneously folding various seals. Damn, Naruto thought, dodging the fire technique, you don't have to try, you're already a corpse. Just die, raising the katana to strike, said Suza. However, he cut only a stump, and the blonde himself stood on a nearby branch and folded the seals. Kaiten, the great fire dragon. The fire, taking the form of a dragon, rushed straight at the enemies, intending to incinerate them. Screams of pain and horror resounded throughout the forest, and the smell of fried meat hit the nose of everyone who was nearby. 2 of the 5 lay down like embers on the fresh, wet grass, but how dare you, bastard. Taking out 2 strange daggers from his bosom, and passing the wind chakra through them, he ran at Naruto. Mujin, Fu, the illusion technique that was invented by Naruto. Thanks to the chakra of Kurama, which he invests in this technique, the illusion becomes truly powerful, which is not so easy to remove. The opponent froze in place, and Naruto, taking out a katana resting on his belt, cut off his head with one movement. There is another one, Naruto thought, looking at the remaining Nukenins. Die. Say, one of the Nukenins began to fold the seals. Naruto has already seen these in training with Tobirama. Damn, the water dragon technique. The blonde did not come up with anything else, except for one technique. Suten is a water dragon. Kaiten dragon's breath. 2 techniques of terrifying power collided with each other with the desire to overcome each other and destroy their enemy. However, due to the unequal amount of chakra used, Naruto's technique was stronger, and therefore Sai did not even understand how he died. Naruto was on one knee, breathing heavily. He had used up all his chakra. Damn, I have no chakra left at all. Having fallen on the grass wet with dew, Naruto thought. My eyes began to darken, and my ears began to ring. Wow, you're really strong, but it's a pity that you're going to die. Approaching the lying enemy, he said to Suzu, I think you're wondering why I betrayed Konoha. Honestly, Naruto didn't care about that. All he wanted was to sleep. Thoughts whirled randomly in my head. I even killed my whole family. These words were listened to, like a knife stuck in the stomach, brought the blonde to his senses. That bastard, Naruto thought. A strange red chakra began to appear around the blonde. So that's because I was supposed to be Madara's disciple. You're not even from our clan, you're just trash. And the garbage has to die. Suza finally looked at Naruto, who was already standing on all fours, for tails from the chakra blossomed behind him like real ones. The nails turned into claws, and the stripes on the cheeks became real animal whiskers. In fear, looking into the eyes of the blonde, he saw nothing there but his imminent death. No, don't. A sharp jump, and now Naruto's hand was up to the elbow in Suza's chest, pushing through the chest and taking out the heart from it. Die by squeezing your hand and crushing your heart, Naruto said. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw the sky that was overcast. My whole body ached, especially my arms. What the hell? Starting to recall the events of the past, Naruto abruptly sat down, which he immediately regretted. Pain with a new wave rolled over Naruto, forcing him to groan. Looking back, Naruto saw 5 corpses, but most of all he was surprised to see the corpse of Suza, with a huge hole in his chest. Raising his right hand, Naruto saw that it was covered in blood. Which one? What happened? Looking at the bloody hand, Naruto thought. I took control of your body and killed that bastard. The fox's voice rang out in the guy's head. With difficulty, getting to his feet, Naruto looked around. He was still in the same forest, and there were no souls around. It's time to go home. Having oriented himself on the terrain, realizing where he should go to return to the village, Naruto headed home. Why don't I remember anything then? Jumping from branch to branch, Naruto asked his furry red-haired friend. You used up too much chakra without going into details, Leaf explained. Realizing that he would not hear a clear and detailed answer, Naruto accelerated to get home faster. Soon the first houses appeared, followed by the rest of the village. In the light of the bright sun, she looked more beautiful than ever. Walking through the streets of Kanahi, trying to avoid passersby so as not to scare them with his appearance, Naruto reached the residence. Allow me, after knocking on the door twice, Naruto asked, although he was on friendly terms with Hashirama. But he still needed to be polite and observe subordination in public. Yes, of course, a tired voice came from behind the door. Opening the new wooden door, Naruto went inside the office. Madara was sitting on the sofa near the wall, carefully reading each paper, putting it first in one pile, then in another. And this is you, Naruto, raising his eyes and warily, casually looking at the blonde, rather clarified than asked Senju. Naruto nodded and walked over to the table, looking at the papers lying on it. You took a long time, we thought you'd manage faster. Without looking up from his occupation, Uchiha gave his voice. How long have I been gone? Naruto asked, looking at his watch. 2 days, Madara replied shortly. The blonde man's eyes widened noticeably. You have a large amount of chakra, since you are Uzumaki, and therefore it took so much time to fully restore it. But if we take into account your accumulated fatigue, then everything falls into place, Kurama said. Yes, an unforeseen situation just happened. Suza turned out to be a traitor. Both men raised their gaze and looked at Naruto. After examining him carefully, they saw blood on his clothes and hand. From now on, in more detail. As soon as we left the village, we immediately headed west. According to Suza, there was a village where there should have been 5 apostates. Exhaling warily, the blond man began his story. This immediately alerted me, because there should have been no villages nearby in that area. And Hashirama said that there were only 4 bandits, which means that there were no more docks. I became more attentive and cautious. Stopping at one of the clearings, which were not so many in the forest, bandits appeared from the forest. It was then that Suza defected to them, and, as far as I understood, he was their leader at all. When Naruto finished his story, both shinobi had even more questions. But then who killed his family? Here he did not lie. Together with his friends he killed his parents. That's just why I do not know, Naruto replied, looking at his teacher in the hope that he knows the answer to why people behave so immorally. How can such people have an excuse in principle? Similar thoughts were spinning in Naruto's head. Madara became noticeably sad at this moment, although he had not shown his emotions much before. Do you know why he did that? Referring to his old childhood friend. Hashirama asked the question. Madara shook his head negatively, taking on the same stone face without a single shadow of emotion. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk about it, Naruto thought, without getting too hung up on it. After all, everyone has their own cockroaches. In his head, Naruto thought, leaving the residence, and also in a roundabout way, bypassing crowded places, wandered home. This clan will rot sooner or later. He needs a breath of fresh air, which, unfortunately, I can't give them, Madara thought after looking at it. Out the window. Having finished with the papers, Madara left the residence and headed towards his house. Don't worry about it. We were able to get rid of Izuna. We can also get rid of Madara, said one of the elders, who thought that there were no extra people around them, but this was not the case. Naruto, who was returning home in a roundabout way, accidentally overheard their conversation. Izuna, this is Madara's brother, Naruto thought, hiding in anticipation of further information. Izuna was much easier to kill. The second elder of the Uchiha clan noticed. All we need is to pit Hashirama and Madara against each other. Meanwhile, Naruto was rushing back home to tell Madara about everything. Is it worth telling? Naruto thought as he sat down on the sofa waiting for his teacher. After all, otherwise he will definitely destroy his clan. The blonde faced a difficult choice that needs to be made. Naruto knew that Madara had experienced the death of his brother very hard, and only Hashirama was able to somehow pull him out of the darkness into which the shinobi god was plunging. When Madara returned home, Naruto didn't tell him anything, deciding that he would be able to resolve the conflict between the two best friends. 2 years have passed. Over the past 2 years, Madara's relations with the clan have deteriorated to the point of impossible. Lately, Madara has been wanting to leave the village more and more, in which no one really keeps him. Going traveling in Madara didn't seem like such a bad idea. After collecting his things, Madara decided to leave the village, but a blond man who appeared 10 meters away from him looked into his eyes, where the Shinsei gathered. Naruto rarely addressed Madara to you, especially with such respect. I'm leaving the village. There's no point in me staying here. My clan is rotten and scheming against me. I have to leave to give them a kind of breath of fresh air, Madara said, looking warily at his student. Get out of the way, the brunette asked, starting to walk. I'm sorry, sensei, but I can't let you go. Revealing the katana presented by Tobirama, Naruto said, Do you really think we can beat me? Naruto shook his head negatively, but still stood up in a stance. Taking out his one-handed scythe, Madara ran at Naruto. The crack of metal resounded throughout the clearing, deafening with its ringing. Hit another block of katana. Horizontally striking with a scythe, Madara tried to hook his student, but only he jumped up and avoided the blow. Jumping away from each other, the two shinobi simultaneously began to fold the seal. Kaiten Great Fiery Destruction. Two techniques rushed at each other, burning grass, insects, destroying all living things in their path. When they collided, they tried to overcome each other. Madara's technique was able to overcome Naruto's fiery destruction. A wave of all-destroying fire was rushing straight at the blonde. Having already accepted his defeat, Naruto went away from the technique, badly scorching his clothes and his right hand. You've lost. From a blow to the stomach, Naruto sprawled on the ground, looking at the cloudy sky. And why did you decide to arrange this? Madara asked, sitting down next to the blonde. I just wanted to enjoy the rest of my time with you. Soon I will return to my time, Naruto said with sadness in his voice. I'm sorry you're leaving so early. During the time spent together, Madara became very attached to his student, even if he did not show it. I'm sorry, Naruto, but I have to go, Madara said with a sad smile. I was glad that you were with me all this time. You have become a father to me, Madara. Enjoying the last seconds of the conversation with his teacher, Naruto said. Of course, he knew that Madara would die in battle with Hashirama. No matter what decisions he made, the past could not be rewritten, and this upset the guy. Me too. From the blow, Naruto's eyes went dark, and his ears rang, after which there was an all-consuming silence. Leaving the unconscious body, Madara headed towards the exit of the village. Uchiha, your brother's death is to blame, Naruto whispered through the last remnants of his mind. These words greatly shocked the brunette, and he ran as fast as he could towards the Uchiha quarter, but Hashirama got in his way. You're making a mistake, Hokage said, looking into the eyes that were filled with hatred and pain. Get out of the way, I'll kill everyone involved in his death, and you won't stop me. Madara spoke confidently, but Hokage seemed to ignore everything he was talking about. I will not let you do this, Uchiha, the clan that is under the protection of Hokage, despite the fact that you are my friend. I will not let them offend, Hashirama replied, after which he added what Madara could not have expected to hear. If necessary, we will fight, but not here. Going towards the forest, to the exit from Kanahi, Sanju said. Madara went after his friend, although he understood that Hashirama was right because he was a Hokage. But the brunette decided to believe that he simply betrayed him. Why would you do that? After all, we have finally built the village we dreamed of so much. Children no longer need to die in wars. And we don't have to fight each other anymore. The war between the Uchiha and Senju ended long ago. We cannot so easily destroy everything that we have built with such difficulty. Otherwise, what is the point of standing opposite against each other? Hashiram said. The wind ruffled their hair, and the bright sun shone as if for the last time. I'm sorry, Hashi, but I will destroy my clan of all those involved in the death of my brother, Madara said, looking at his friend. Each of them understood that they would not understand each other. Each of them believed that he was right, and his actions were correct. They did not try to find a compromise. It was as if they did not listen to each other. I won't let you do that. You chose the wrong path, Madara. Great. Then let's get started. Both shinobi gods rushed at each other with the desire to win. Friendship no longer mattered to them. Why do people think that they are right? Why do people think that their decision is the right one? People are not trying to find a compromise for the current situation. So why? The answer to this question cannot be found. Maybe it's the nature of people, or maybe something else. Waking up in the evening, Naruto got up with difficulty and ran towards where the explosions were still coming from. I have to make it. I'll make it, please, Naruto thought, adding speed, knowing how their battle would end. The death of the one who replaced his father. Running to the current valley of completion, Naruto saw nothing but huge craters from explosions and large-scale techniques. With the gaze of two people still standing on the water surface, Naruto ran in their direction. You're too serious, hush, Madara said, looking at the serious face of his friend who was lying on the water. Madara rejoiced at the victory, raising his scythe to strike, but he did not have time to lower it. The katana pierced through the heart area. A silence was formed, through which only the heavy breathing of both men could be heard, a quiet, slow heartbeat. The wooden clone asked a question from sneezing, looking at the clone that was lying on the water. That's just when you managed to go behind my back. Blood began to trickle from Madara's mouth. I will protect my village. I will destroy anyone who threatens her, be it her father, mother, brother, or even my best friend. Taking out his katana from his friend's body, Hashirama said, have you changed? Ha! No. The blond man's shout rang out across the valley, interrupting Madara's speech. Turning around, Hashirama saw Naruto running up. Forgive me, Naruto, I went the wrong way. Naruto fell to his knees near the dying Madara, and the consciousness of hopelessness devoured the blonde from the inside. Tears rolled from the guy's eyes. Shut up, I have so much to tell you. I knew how your battle would end. I couldn't save you, I couldn't save you, I couldn't. I felt a lump rise treacherously in my throat. I am so glad that you were my teacher. You became like a father to me, someone who would always support me, who would help me no matter what. Naruto put his head on Madara's chest and started crying. Thank you, Naruto. You have also become a son for me. You are very similar to him. Pulling a faint smile on his face, Madara said. Blood filled his mouth, making it impossible to speak properly. Realizing that death was already close, Madara hurried to finish his, perhaps, last words. Forgive me, Hashi, I'm going to ask you to transplant my eyes, Naruto, casting a glance at his friend, in which it was easy to read an apology and sadness. Hashirama only nodded. Tears also rolled down his cheeks. He did not say anything. Looking at the sobbing blonde, he finally realized that he had made a mistake. If he had listened to his friend then, none of this would have happened. He caused great pain to one of his loved ones. I'm terrible, Hashirama thought, looking up at the sky. Please stand up. Still, Madara left this mortal world without finishing his last sentence. The hands let go of the weapons, which immediately went to the bottom. Naruto, before losing consciousness, was able to grab Madara's weapon, which he treasured his scythe. After looking at the unconscious body of the blonde and at the corpse of his friend, Hashirama looked at the sky. He was a winner, but there was no joy from victory. There was only emptiness. He killed his friend. He renounced the past for the present. But was it worth it? Will time tell? No one knew that. Taking the unconscious body of the blonde in one hand and the scythe in the other, Hashirama created a clone that took Madara. Hokage headed to the village. Waking up, Naruto felt a strong pain in his eyes. Convulsively starting to remember what happened yesterday and why his eyes hurt so much, Naruto was horrified. No, 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 as long as it's just a dream. All the guy was thinking about, feeling the wet bandage on his eyes, he didn't understand what was going on at all. Lyak, you need peace. I will answer all your questions. The fox's voice echoed in the guy's head. Where am I? At Hashirama's house, the fox replied, pulling the guy inside his subconscious. What happened to me, and why do my eyes hurt so much? Asked Naruto, who was already in his subconscious and saw the fox. What do you remember? I hope it was a dream. No, Naruto, it wasn't a dream. Madara is dead, and his cells and his line were transplanted to you. Naruto was in complete shock, sitting on the floor. He sat in complete silence for several minutes, trying to digest everything. Why couldn't I do anything? Why didn't I tell them before? I killed Madara, Naruto thought, and tears rolled down his cheeks again. I want to be alone, Naruto said, disappearing from his subconscious, leaving the fox alone with his thoughts. The death of a loved one hit the boy too hard. For some time looking at the place where the blonde had just been, Kurama thought. I have already woken up, seeing the tears flowing down the cheeks of the guy. I asked Hashiram. Unfortunately, the guy mumbled. I do not know what to say to me, Hashirama answered honestly, sitting down next to the bed on which the blonde was lying. You don't have to say anything. It's completely my fault. I knew Madara would die in battle with you, but I didn't do anything. Tears flowed from Naruto's eyes with even more force. Don't blame yourself. Forgive me, Naruto. Hashirama said sadly. Why did you transplant Madara's eyes to me? Naruto asked, touching the bandage with his right hand, what lay behind. In front of his eyes. This was the last wish of my friend, which I was obliged to fulfill, Hokage replied, looking out the window, behind which the rain and thunderstorm were in full swing. Don't worry, Mita did everything perfectly. By transplanting Madara cells to you, you can activate and deactivate the Sharingan in your eyes. The rain began to pound on the roof of the house with renewed vigor. When can I take off the blindfold? Naruto asked, turning his head in the direction from where the brunette's voice was coming from. I don't know, you can ask Mit. Hashirama answered, leaving the room. Once again casting a sad look at the blonde, he left the room. I'm a terrible friend, Hashirama thought as he walked past the kitchen. Mita, Naruto has a question for you there. Entering his wife's room, Hokage said. A beautiful red-haired girl got out of bed and headed towards the room where the blonde was lying. Don't blame yourself, you did everything right. Seeing the moral state of her husband, Uzumaki replied. Hashirama just smiled tightly and followed Mita. Hashirama said you have questions for me. Sitting down by the bed, Mita said, when can I take off the bandage? If you want, we can take it off right now. The eyes should have caught on by now. After all, you've been unconscious 4 days. Mita answered, carefully removing the bandage, which was still wet, most likely from tears. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw the familiar interior and Hokage's beautiful wife. Thank you, Naruto thanked the woman, after which he struggled to his feet. Naruto, don't strain yourself too much. Hashirama avoided the blonde's gaze, and therefore now looked at the floor. Don't blame yourself, old man, I've already said. The only one who is guilty of Madara's death is me, coming up and hugging Hokage. Naruto said. Tears ran down Hokage's cheeks. Thank you, Naruto, the brunette barely whispered. Kurama, when the Haguruma technique ends, Naruto asked the fox. In a week, we will go back, the fox replied, realizing that now it is not worth touching the blonde at all. I'm going back to my world in a week. I want to spend the rest of my time with you, Naruto replied, heading out of the house, but first, I want to say goodbye to Madara, where he is buried. Already standing in the doorway, Naruto asked, looking back at his friend. I'll walk you out, the brunette replied, throwing his hat on his head. Coming out, they were not at all frightened by the weather. Raindrops covered the body of the blonde. Looking back, he was already in the cemetery, near the grave of his adoptive father. Hashiram was not around. Apparently, he decided to leave him alone. Looking at the tombstone, tears rolled out of the guy's eyes, but they were not visible in the rain. The weather seemed to mourn the death of the teacher with him. Talking and crying won't help the dead in any way. So quiet that even the rain and the frequent thunder drowned out his speech. I was glad that then I decided to go back in time. It's been the best 5 years of my life, old man, and it's all thanks to you, Hashirama Tobirama. And very soon I will return to where I came from, where the whole village hated me, just for the fact that I exist. Breathe the same air as they do. Be strong, not paying any attention to them. The moments of their conversations with Madara surfaced again and again in the head of the blondes. To be honest, it will be safer for me to live if I think that you are watching me from somewhere above. Until this day, I had always wondered about the meaning of death. Isn't that what's waiting for us all? Raindrops dripping down our faces, falling into our mouths, making it difficult to speak. So if this is waiting for us all, then what's the point of extolling death? I thought, or rather even hoped, that I would not grieve because of someone's death, but in reality, it turned out to be exactly the opposite. I will no longer be able to hear your voice or see you, laugh or discuss anything with you. Such thoughts are very burdensome, Naruto said, spitting out the accumulated water and squatting down. What's the point of my words at all? They won't be able to reach your ears. But I'm still talking to you as if nothing had happened. Although it's stupid, but still, know that I was glad to have a father like you. I will never forget you. And I will not be able to accept your death. All I have left is this memory of you, and I swear by all the gods, it will be alive in me until I die. Getting to his feet, Naruto said. After taking one last look at the grave of his father, Shinsei, a friend, Naruto left the cemetery, heading home. No matter how broken I am by Madara's death, I must not forget that I still have friends who care about me. They worry about me because they see my moral state. I have to be stronger, Naruto thought. His clothes were soaked through, and the first goosebumps began to run through his body. I'll get stronger and save this damn world, and then we'll meet in the next world. Leaving the cemetery, Naruto said, Madara's eternal Mangeki Sharingan was burning in his eyes. I'm back. Water dripped and dripped on the floor near the door. You're fast, Tobirama said that he came out of his room and looked at the completely soaked guy. The dead can't hear our speeches, so what's the point of standing there any longer, especially since I've said everything I wanted to. Taking off his kimono, Naruto said. You're right, going for dry clothes, Sanju said. Be strong, that's what Madara wanted from you. Finally disappearing into the darkness of the corridor, Tobirama said softly. Naruto just smiled sadly. After changing his clothes, he went to the kitchen, where Hashirama and Mita were already sitting. Maybe tea, smiling warily, asked Naruto. And why not? Hashirama said, getting up from the sofa. There was a strange atmosphere in the kitchen. Everyone wanted to seem cheerful, but the general sadness overcame this fun. I will leave you forever in a week, and who knows when we will meet again, sipping tea, Naruto said. I'd like us to do that. Time is fun without thinking about the sad. We will miss you, Hashirama answered honestly, after which, apparently remembering something, he got up and left the kitchen. Where is he going? Naruto asked, looking blankly at the doorway, in which a diamond reappeared a couple of seconds later. No, I almost forgot. You grabbed that scythe before you lost consciousness. Taking out Madara's weapon firm behind his back, Hokage replied, "If you want, you can take her with you." Smiling, Hush replied, "Thank you." Smiling, Naruto took the scythe in his hands. Then he put it next to him. On the floor. Naruto was standing in a clearing near Kanahi. It was one of the Uchiha clan's training grounds. A Sharingan with 3 volumes was burning in the guy's eyes. "Naruto, remember that we will never forget you and we will miss you," Hashirama said, waving his hand, his look of guilt for what he had done earlier. "You were a good friend and student," replied Tobirama, who had never been distinguished by emotions before. "We're going to miss you." 3 people shouted in one voice. "Thank you for everything. You have become for me a ray of light in the impenetrable darkness. I am really glad that I appeared in your world, and I do not regret that I met each of you," Naruto replied, holding the scythe in his right hand. "Hashirama, don't you dare blame yourself for the teacher's death. You did everything right. Remember that you protected Konoha, for which all the residents are grateful to you. Tobirama, become a wonderful Hokage." Smiling mysteriously, Naruto replied, "Mita, watch these two so that they don't mess up anything." The smile did not leave the face of the guy who was about to disappear. "Disappear from this time. And finally, keep an eye on the Uchiha clan. I'm sure they're up to something." After saying that, Naruto disappeared in a white flash. "So he left. It won't be so much fun without him," Hashirama said, tears streaming down his face. "I'm going to miss you," Hokage whispered, turning around and looking at Konoha, which had a beautiful view. Save this world by heading to the village, Hokage thought. Naruto found himself in a strange place again. It wasn't like his subconscious. "It's time to go back. You've become much stronger than when we first met," said the old man who was hovering in front of the blonde. "I am grateful to you for sending me back in time. I will definitely save this world, after which I will go into the sunset." Grinning, Naruto replied, already anticipating the sit-along glances of the villagers. "Well, it's time to go back, Naruto Uzumaki," said Hagoromo, folding several seals. "See you again, old man." Naruto's eyes darkened, and a second later, opening them, he was already in his own time. All at the same Uchiha clan training ground. "So I came back, looking back," Naruto thought. "So I came back, looking back," Naruto thought. A blonde man with long hair was sitting on the wet grass at one of the Uchiha clan's training grounds. The sky was overcast, and only a few rays of the sun, breaking through them, fell to the ground. In the hand of the guy was dear to his heart, a scythe and a katana. Standing up silently, Naruto sealed both one-handed weapons in the vault seal that he had on his palms. This was done by Mita, a member of the Uzumaki clan, who were known for their sealing techniques. Maybe it's worth visiting the old man Hokage, or maybe hanging around the territory of the Uchiha clan, Naruto reasoned to himself. Looking somewhere in the sky. Bad weather was going to break out soon. From somewhere in the distance, joyful shouts could be heard. Throwing a hood over his head, which he took from Hashirama, Naruto moved in the direction from where the voices were coming from. "Mom. Dad, I became a shinobi." The guy with the black hair spoke up. His parents and, apparently, his sister were standing next to him. Uchiha, Naruto thought, noticing the distinctive feature of this clan, onyx eyes and raven black hair. Naruto headed towards Hokage's residence to report to the third about his return. Or maybe it's worth starting a new life. Wouldn't that be better? The blonde pondered as he moved through the crowd of people, which was not surprising, because this is the main street of Kanahi. Given the fact that new Leaf Genins were released today, it is quite logical that there will be a lot of people. Everyone is celebrating. And why are they so eager to become shinobi, to become a faithful weapon for the village, to kill for good, Naruto thought. Watching another joyful cry of a new genin. Probably, I don't understand this, Naruto thought, hiding his chakra, making his way through people. How many of them there are, turning into a doorway, Naruto thought. Deciding to wait here until the main stream passes, Naruto sat down on the ground. Thunder could already be heard in the distance. It's going to rain soon, he He thought he would disperse them, Naruto thought, looking at the hurrying world. Who are you, and why did you hide your chakra? The three Anbu asked, appearing in front of the blonde man. I didn't hide anything, Naruto replied, a little surprised that he saw Anbu here. Who are you? The central Anbu asked, looking at the person sitting. A man, trying to see his face, which was difficult to do because of the hood thrown over his head. Naruto Uzumaki, the blonde man replied shortly, looking at the uninvited guests. Naruto Uzumaki is currently dead, tell me your real name. Okay, I was thinking of making a joke, but apparently I didn't succeed. Grinning stupidly, the guy replied, Annie, I'm a traveler. I came to Konoha to learn more about your culture. Naruto brazenly lied, but did not show it at all. How do you know about Naruto Uzumaki? Asked an obvious question to Anbu. He was my friend. I used to live in Konoha, and we used to see him sometimes, until one day he disappeared. The blonde man shrugged his shoulders. The Anbu unceremoniously left, leaving the guy alone, though not for long. Soon 3 drunken chunins stumbled into this alley. And who else are you? One of the men asked, staring at Naruto, having every right in me to answer. He's too brazen, the drunkest shinobi said, and his friends agreed with that. It's time to teach the boy manners. The shinobi took out a kunai and prepared to teach a good lesson to the guy. How difficult it is with you. Getting to his feet and noticing that the street slowly began to empty. Naruto printed out his katana with a white handle, prepared for battle. In the end, it will be self-defense. Naruto thought, or wanted to think so. Naturally, such defiant behavior immediately went unnoticed by the drunken chunins, and they ran as fast as they could at the guy. The first swing of the katana cut off the head of one of the attackers, the second swing cut the throat of another. Alone. Katana entered the warm, tender flesh, easily stitching it like paper. Pulling out and wiping away the blood, Naruto sealed the weapon back, then went out onto the main street, and merged with the crowd, leaving 3 still warm corpses behind. The drops of the rain that had begun washed away the blood from the corpses and the ground, as if they were covering their tracks for Naruto. And these are chunins, Naruto thought, approaching the residence. A strange smile did not leave his face, which immediately alerted the fox. But he did not say anything. Maybe it seemed. Come in. The tired voice of the third Hokage came firm behind the closed door. Naruto carefully opened the door, then went inside. Who are you, and why have you come? Looking at the unknown, the gray-haired old man asked. Naruto Uzumaki has come to warn you about his return. Taking off the hood, if it were possible, the old man's hair would sit in an instant. Hokage's face expressed mixed feelings. It was easy to see horror, surprise, and even joy there. Are you alive? Dropping the phone on the floor, the third one asked in shock. Seeing the guy's nod, he leaned back in his chair, thinking about his own. I was wondering why the Ninetales don't appear, flashed through the old man's head. Well, it's good that the guy is alive. In the end, you won't have to look for a new Jinchuriki, and once again fight with the fox. Picking up the phone and taking a puff, the old man thought, peering into the blonde's face. His hairstyle, it feels like he's already seen a similar one, but he just couldn't remember where. Can I go? After 5 minutes of silence, Naruto asked, glancing out the window, through which drops of water were constantly flowing. Even through the window, it was clear that those people who were still on the street were already rushing to take shelter from the weather. Yes, of course, here are your keys, the old man replied, holding out his hand with the keys to the apartment. Thanks, disappearing into Shunshin, Naruto said. Weasel. The old man replied shortly, becoming more serious. A couple of seconds later, a girl with long black hair was standing in his office, and Sharingan was burning in her eyes. Was Hokage's name Sama? Itachi asked. That was the name of a beautiful girl who worked in the Anbu under the codename Weasel. Yes, I have a task for you. You need to keep an eye on Naruto Uzumaki. The old man answered, looking closely at the girl, who was clearly shocked to hear who she would have to follow. But he's dead, voiced her thoughts aloud and touch. Today he returned to the village after 5 years. I think you understand why and how important this surveillance is. Hakagi asked, warily exhaling smoke from his mouth, shifting his gaze to the portrait of the fourth. Oh Minato, what an annoying son he left us, the old man thought, turning his gaze back to Itachi. Hi, Hakagi-sama, disappearing into Shunshin, the girl said. Why would he come back to the village after 5 years, the girl thought, hiding under the canopy of a tree from the rain. However, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, Naruto returned home. After inserting the key into the door, he noticed that the door was not closed at all. Pushing open the door, he went inside, where there was a mess. We'll have to get out, having folded the seal, Naruto thought. Next to him, a second later, in a cloud of smoke, his clone appeared, who immediately began to clean the apartment. Well, while I'm going to the teacher's thing, Naruto thought, disappearing into the Shumshin. Rain again, yes, looking at the overcast sky, Naruto thought, having already reached the cemetery. As a souvenir, Naruto still found the grave of Madara Uchiha, which, by the way, eventually overgrown. It was impossible to even guess that one of the founders of the village was lying here. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, Naruto said, looking at the grave, which eventually shook quite well. I'm back in my own time, the blonde man replied softly. I miss you, that's all I can tell you. The guy had a strong feeling that he was being watched. He had never been let down by such feelings before. I'm sorry, sensei, but apparently we'll talk to you a little later, Naruto said, heading towards the exit from the cemetery. Throwing on his hood, thereby escaping from the annoying rain, Naruto headed towards Mount Hakagi. He liked to be there even before going back in time, probably because there was usually no one there. And there was a beautiful view of the village he hated so much. The feeling that he was being watched still did not leave the guy. Maybe Hakagi sent one of the Anbu to follow me, Naruto thought as he climbed the mountain. Sitting down under one of the trees, sheltering from the rain, Naruto began to peacefully wait for the bad weather to end. Right in front of me, a little to the right on one of the trees, and he hides well. If it wasn't for the sensory abilities I got from Kurama, I would never have known his location, Naruto thought, glancing at the place where the alleged spy was supposed to be. Thank you, the fox snorted in the back of his mind, which amused the blonde a little. Maybe with the help of Genjutsu to make him come out, Naruto thought, remembering his eyes. Meanwhile, Itachi, sitting on a tree, was watching the blonde closely. She was calm because there was no way he could detect her. She hid almost the entire chakra, only an experienced sensor at the level of the head of the Yamanaka clan would be able to notice her. Of course, she was a pro at surveillance. And for a long time he's going to sit like this, the girl thought, looking at the blonde man who was sitting quietly with his eyes closed. A few minutes later, Naruto carefully got to his feet. And he went towards the trees, among the foliage of which the Tatch was hiding. He couldn't have found me, the girl thought, but she was already ready to either run or fight. I'd like to talk, Naruto said, stopping right in front of the tree where Arthur was hiding. Anbook. A man in an Anbook root ammunition jumped out of a nearby tree. The fox must be delivered to the leader himself. Bearing the Tana, the guy replied. Interesting. And who is your leader? Naruto asked after printing out his katana. It makes no sense for a dead man to know about this, Anbu proudly declared, and ran towards Naruto with a weapon at the ready. Well, okay, the blonde easily blocked the first blow, and then the second. Realizing that he was weaker in Kinjutsu, Anbu broke the distance and began to fill the seals. It won't help you, Naruto replied, watching him closely. Sweeten, the water dragon. The water that dripped from the puddles in the sky began to form into a huge dragon, which a few seconds later carried a partner. The great fireball is rolled. Having folded just one one-handed seal, Naruto spoke. Having given out a really huge amount of fire, which immediately took the form of a ball, the guy ran after the equipment. And he's smart, Itachi thought, watching the battle through his ranks. Colliding, the technicians overcame each other, filling the entire space with steam, which interfered with the view. Emerging like a ray of light, breaking through a cloud from a cloud of steam, Naruto, waving his katana, cut the throat of the enemy. Red eyes flashing literally for a second, everything he saw before the death of Anbu Root. The body that fell to the ground meant the victory of the blonde. Waving his katana, Naruto cleaned it of blood, then sealed it back. "You should have shown yourself too," Naruto replied, looking exactly at Itachi. "I'm not going to fight, and you saw it yourself, it was just self-defense." For the truthfulness of his words, Naruto sat down on the ground and began to wait. "And what do you want from me, showing up in front of a guy in a standard Anbu mask?" Itachi asked. "That's how the girl was following me." The blonde man voiced his thoughts aloud, after which he immediately changed his face. "Why were you following me?" "The order of the third," seriously looking at the girl, asked the blonde. "I can't answer such questions." Itachi answered briefly, but succinctly. "It's quite risky, but I need to find out," Naruto thought, activating his Sharingan. Looking through the eye slot, Naruto applied strong genjutsu. "Is this an order from the third?" Naruto asked, already thinking that the illusion had worked. "Where did you get those eyes from?" The girl asked with anger in her voice, and through the slits for the eyes, the same Trichitomi Sharingan was visible. "It was a catastrophic miscalculation," Naruto replied with a smile. At the same moment, the girl jumped out of her seat and put a kunai to her throat. Only Naruto managed to react and substituted his katana for the enemy's weapon. "Where did you get those eyes from?" The girl repeated again, putting more and more pressure on kunai. "I won't answer you while kunai is at my throat," Naruto replied, looking into the girl's eyes. "From where?" After a couple of minutes, Uchiha put the kunai in her pouch, and then asked the same question again. "I received it as a gift, and as you can see, I can deactivate and activate it." For persuasiveness, Naruto turned off his eyes for a second. "Who gave them to you?" "I can't tell you this, but he was very dear to me, and was a good man, even though he was betrayed by his own clan," Naruto said, remembering the old money in the past. "But why do you have them?" "You're not from our clan, and as far as I know, no one has left our clan during these 6. "From whom did you get the Sharingan after all?" the girl asked, plunging into her own thoughts. "You won't guess anyway, there's no point in you thinking about it. Maybe one day I will tell you who gave me these eyes, but obviously not in the near future," Naruto said, getting to his feet. "So why were you following me?" "I can't tell you," Itachi replied the same way, not even paying any attention to the blonde. "But if you can't, then tell the one who sent you that you don't need to follow me," Naruto said. Then he took a cursory glance at the corpse lying nearby. "I'd also like to know who this guy is. Judging by the clothes, you're both from Anbu, but he's from some other one," Naruto said, turning to Itachi again. "This is shinobi from Anbu Feed. They obey Shimuri Danza," the girl explained, looking at her work colleague. "Why would he have a grudge against me then?" "Because I'm a Jinchuriki," Naruto said out loud. "How do you know about this?" Itachi asked in shock, looking at the guy. "The fox told me himself, we are friends with him without thinking," Naruto said, after which he immediately fell silent. "Damn it!" the blonde cursed, looking at Itachi, who was in even more shock. "Please don't talk about this third one. I'm begging you," the guy asked plaintively, looking at Anba. And what? The girl only now realized that when she told about the second organization of the Anbu, she gave out the one who asked to follow Naruto. "Damn," Itachi thought, looking at the guy. "Okay, just don't tell him you saw me." A compromise was found out of this situation, which was quite acceptable to both shinobi. "Drop by 4T sometime, maybe I'll tell you more about where I've been these 5 years." Disappearing into Shunshin, Naruto said, "Come by 4T sometime, maybe I'll tell you more about where I've been these 5 years." Disappearing into Shunshin, Naruto said. Heading down an almost deserted street, the blonde man took off his hood. Is it really him? A woman closing her shop asked. She stared intently at the blond man's face, as if trying to read something in it. This demon will even come out of the grave, her friend replied, throwing an angry look at Naruto. I wish he hadn't come back. These 5 years without him were the best. Heading towards the house, the woman said, the events of long ago are still alive in people's memory. And they are like knives, cutting, causing pain. Nothing has changed, but should something have changed? Or was Naruto just harboring unrealistic dreams about changing attitudes towards him? Konoha still did not accept him into their ranks. She hated him, wanted him dead. If there was a drunken shinobi on his way now, who caught the time of the battle with the Nine-Tail, he would have rushed at Naruto without hesitation to kill, to hurt, as, in his opinion, did what? Sits and manages the guy. I hate this village. Naruto started coming back to his old thoughts, views and dialogues. Finally, he got to his apartment. For 5 years, he had somehow already weaned himself from all these looks full of hatred and contempt. The atmosphere pressed on the guy, as if he was under a huge water column. Having dispelled the clone, all knowledge and fatigue passed to the original. Thank God, now you can sleep, Naruto thought, lying down on a soft bed. Closing his eyes, Naruto fell asleep. He had not dreamed of anything for a long time, probably because he grew up quite quickly, and his brain no longer needed to memorize unnecessary information. However, tonight was an exception. He had a strange dream. He was standing in the middle of a clearing that was completely dotted with craters and water, apparently from the technicians. A uprooted forest, still burning with fire in places. Looking to the right, Naruto saw himself. His hands were covered with blood up to the elbows, and his cloak was cut into shreds. What the hell? Naruto thought, opening his eyes in shock. Heavy breathing and rapid heartbeat were all that greeted him on a cold morning. It was just a dream, flashed through the blonde's head, after which he exhaled with relief. Glancing at his watch, he found that it was already 8 in the morning. Concentrating a little, Naruto felt the same Itachi, who was calmly sitting on a tree branch and watching the guy, actually speaking. Doing her job. Going to the window, the blonde man opened it and stared clearly at the place where the girl was sitting. Realizing that Naruto had something from her. Once, he disappeared in Shunshin, appearing in the boy's house. Would you like some tea? This question confused Uchiha. She thought it was something serious, but here. She began angrily, but quickly calmed down, decided to agree. Yes, come on. Naruto went to the side of the kitchen to brew a drink of the gods. While the kettle was boiling, the guy started talking to the girl. Of course, you can ask why. What's the point of this? That's just Naruto himself didn't understand why he was doing it. How are you? Naruto started from afar, looking at Itachi. What did you want, head on, ignoring the guy's kind smile? The girl asked. I told you I was just bored. Since you have already been assigned to follow me, then I will talk to you, Naruto said, changing the stupid, but different one. A kind smile on a serious expression. Here's an attack on my head, Uchiha thought, sighing heavily. Oh, the kettle is boiling. The whistle of the kettle rang throughout the apartment, and a few seconds later, when Naruto left for the kitchen, the room was filled with the aroma of fresh intake. And what are we going to talk about? Itachi asked, looking into the mug. I don't know, I don't really care. But as far as I understand, you can't tell me anything interesting, a military secret. The blonde man deliberately mocked the last words, sipping some tea. Hot air blew over the guy's face, on which small drops of sweat appeared. Where have you been for the last 5 years? Asked the girl, who did not even hope that she would hear the answer. She was expecting something like, oh, I don't even know. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. It's too personal. However, Naruto, calmly taking a sip of tea, began his story. I will tell you, because I believe that you will keep it a secret. Although we don't know each other very well, I've studied you well. Naruto answered, looking at the girl carefully. Blue eyes closely followed every action of the girl, trying not to miss anything. This confused Itachi a little, and she was covered with a slight blush. It was a sign that it was worth continuing to tell. Lowering his eyes into the mug, Naruto took another sip, quietly savoring the taste of store-bought tea. I went back in time, or rather, I was sent. He was a strange old man whose name I don't remember. Realizing that it's better to keep some things a secret, Naruto said. I went back in time. In what particular time interval, I did not know until the very last moment. Naruto turned his gaze to the open window, through which the wind was blowing, swaying the long hair of Naruto and Tachi. I was thrown into the times of Madara and Hashiram. Maybe you won't believe me, but everything I say is true. After a while, the great shinobi became my teacher. Hashirama and Tabirama are my friends. Naruto stopped his story, carefully looking at the interlocutor, who was in deep shock. To make sure you believe me, I have something. Out of a cloud of white smoke, a one-handed, long star braid appeared in the blonde's left hand. There can be no mistake, this is the legendary weapon of Madara, Itachi thought, looking with round eyes at the blonde. Really, are you really that mysterious disciple of the two shinobi gods that no one has ever seen? Itachi asked, still not moving away from the news that he had recently heard. Wow, they even started making up legends about me. I am flattered, Naruto said, sealed. Typing the braid back. But why did you tell me about it? Shouldn't that be your biggest secret? Aren't you afraid I'm going to tell the third one? Itachi really didn't understand Naruto's actions. During the time they spent together, he showed up. And a pretty smart and calculating guy who would never make such a stupid mistake. I already told you at the very beginning. I believe you won't tell anyone about this. Naruto shrugged, glancing at the sky, which was visible through the open window. It was overcast, and bad weather was going to break out again soon. The blonde felt it, but there is something else. I do not know why, but I just want to sit and tell you about everything that happened to me there. It's a strange feeling. Scratching his head, Naruto replied. And what are you going to do next? Itachi asked after a few minutes of silence. Naruto silently got up, went to the window, once again looked at the dark clouds like night, he closed it. I don't know. It's too late to go to Shinobi. The geniuses who graduated have already been assigned to teams, which means that I'm in a loss here. Because I have no desire to lose a whole year to study at the academy. I will wait for the moment to leave the village and go traveling, and until that moment I will train. Itachi was a little surprised that he was so easily talking about leaving the village to a member of the Anbu. Will you become a renegade? Naruto just nodded, remembering that he still has to save this damn world. But why? Don't you want to become an Anbu, especially with your abilities? It won't be. It's not going to be that hard. Don't you want to protect the village from enemies? The girl asked, and it was her mistake. She knew practically nothing about Naruto to make such statements, but it was already too late. The blonde man instantly changed his face, he became serious and looked. Itachi began to speak, to protect the village, and the inhabitants too. Seeing the nod, Naruto took a deep breath, clearing his mind of unnecessary thoughts. It's impossible. But why? You don't know anything about me. All my childhood, I wished for my death. A thunderstorm began outside the window, the rain began to rattle on the roofs of houses. Lightning flashed here and there, illuminating only for a moment, all thanks to the residents. They hate me, despise me, wish me dead. After all, I am a demon. The one who killed their loved ones is sitting in me. They don't care about my feelings, they only want to drown out their pain. Naruto's words had an effect on Itachi, who was now sitting lower than grass, quieter than water. She listened attentively to the guy's story, not even paying attention to the annoying thunder, which was sometimes interrupted. Naruto's story. All my life, I have been fighting with the inhabitants of this damn village. Drunken shinobi have made dozens of attempts to kill me. I will say even more, once they almost succeeded. These 5 years that I haven't been here are obviously the best in my life. I would not have appeared here for the same amount of time, and then for the same amount of time, and so on for the rest of my life. I hate the inhabitants and this village with all my heart. So tell me, if you had exactly the same childhood, would you have gone to the Anbu to protect the lives of a murderer who tried to take yours? The question, like a bolt from the blue, puzzled Itachi. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find an answer. I will leave Kanahi, that's for sure, but I do not know when, Naruto said, finishing his tea, which had already cooled down. I'm sorry, realizing that I raised not the most pleasant topic for conversation, the girl said, looking into the eyes of the blonde. Never mind, Naruto said, picking up 2 empty cups from the table. More tea, turning around, the blonde asked. I have to go back, they are waiting for me at home. The girl smiled guiltily. There's a thunderstorm and heavy rain, at least wait it out. Moreover, I don't think the old man will be happy if he finds out that you left spying on me so early. Naruto said with a sly smile. After thinking it over, Itachi agreed with him and sat back down on the chair. Now it's your turn to tell me something. Bringing another delicious-smelling tea into the room and putting it on the table, Naruto said. I don't have any interesting stories, Itachi said, looking at the steam. Come on, at least tell me about yourself, Naruto said, thinking a little, and then added. Only detailed with details, this request even amused, and Tachi, and she laughing, began to talk about herself. He's not as bad a person as everyone thinks. He is kinder than any of the residents of Konoha. Fourth Sama, you could be proud of your son if you were alive, Itachi thought, looking at the thoughtful blonde. But I went, the girl said, looking out the window, behind which the weather had already calmed down. Opening the window, letting in fresh air, which clearly woke up a sleepy and tired guy. And Tacha looked once again at the object of her surveillance, as she jokingly called Naruto. See you tomorrow, Naruto smiled, having already looked at an empty place. I'm even glad that Hokage gave me exactly this mission, Itachi thought, jumping from branch to branch, heading to her home. I'm even glad that it was her Hokage assigned to me as an overseer, Naruto thought, closing the window and sitting down on the bed. A knock on the door woke the blonde. Opening his half-asleep eyes, he looked around. The sun was rising outside the window, gradually illuminating the whole of Konoha. Throwing on his pants, Naruto went to the door, then opened it. There were 2 Inbukorni standing on the threshold. Did you want something? Realizing what they came for, Naruto asked. Masks hid their faces. The leader herself asked you to deliver to him. Will you go yourself, or will you be delivered, exposing your katana by a couple of centimeters? Asked Anbu with a bare mask. You know, I'll go to Hiruzen myself. Throwing on a raincoat, Naruto said, going outside. Our leader is Nikaruzen. Putting a katana to the blonde man's throat, the masked wolf spoke to Anbu. Interestingly, a Sharingan appeared in Naruto's eyes. Having printed out his katana, Naruto took the weapon away from his throat in one movement and broke the distance. Sharingan voiced his thoughts aloud to the bear. Naruto didn't say anything, he was just waiting for the next attack from Anbu. Die. The third enemy jumped down from a tree that grew nearby, intending to kill the blonde. 3-on-1 isn't fair, Naruto said, while dodging the third enemy's attack at the same time. A swing of the katana cut the throat of Anbu in a dog mask. The 2 Anbu who were standing at the door were able to sneak up on the blonde and then twisted him. It would have been better if you had reached it yourself, of course, but it's too late. The wolf said haughtily, tightening the rope tighter. I'm sorry guys, but I'm not going with you, Naruto said. The pattern of his eyes began to change. It was the eternal Mangeki Sharingan of Madara. Blood trickled from his right eye, and the Anbu froze in place. Mugen Tsukuyomi whispered softly to Naruto. After disappearing into Shunshin, Naruto left behind 3 corpses of Anbu. The blonde was heading towards the forest, through which it was necessary to run to be near the rubber. Noticing 2 centers of chakra, the guy quickly slowed down and crept up to 2 unknown. Itachi and a strange man in an orange mask were standing in the clearing. Your clan has been plotting a coup for a long time. Sooner or later, Hiruzen will give you a task to destroy. Uchiha clan. I have come to offer you my help in destroying it. However, after that you will join my organization, said the masked man, addressing Itachi, who was greatly shocked that the unknown knew so much about the situation with the clan. Itachi couldn't find the words to say anything, so she just stared absent-mindedly into the distance. Realizing that most likely the masked man was right, sooner or later Hiruzen would give out this task. Itachi hasn't seen each other for a long time, Naruto said, walking to the clearing, gazing intently into the slit for the masked guy. Naruto Uzumaki, and you, greeted the blonde. As I understand it, you were eavesdropping, seeing the blonde's nod, the unknown in the mask just exhaled warily. Then I don't see the point in hiding anything from you. My name is Uchiha Madara. At the same moment, Naruto was behind the unknown, putting a katana to his throat, which materialized in his hand. What are you doing? The unknown asked, not even trying to get away from the blow. Tell me your real name. Uchiha Madara. Again and again he stood on his masked man. Madara has been dead for a long time. Clutching the katana harder in his hands, he looked with a slice of sadness at the back of the masked shinobi. I'm a shinobi god, do you really think that I wouldn't be able to find a way to live up to this time? The wind slightly ruffled the couple's hair. He looks like Madara, the unknown noted to himself, without moving. They have different chakras, and Madara would immediately understand who is in front of him. This is an imposter, that's just why he pretends to be a teacher. Silence reigned in the clearing, which no one dared to break. Sasuke, do you think we'll be in the same class? Voices were heard from the depths of the forest. I don't know, but I hope it was clear from the voice. Itachi's younger brother, that is, Sasuke, was confused. Well, I'll leave you, but not for long. Smiling, the unknown disappeared into a spatial funnel, and Itachi disappeared into Shunshin. It was impossible for her brother to see her together with Naruto. She did not need unnecessary questions. Well, then we ran to the academy rather. You can't be late on the first day. A girl ran out of the bushes into the clearing. She was beautiful. Black hair, onyx eyes, slim build, beautiful face. And along with her, Sasuke himself ran out, whom the girl held by the hand, smiling broadly, who did not really resist. Seeing Naruto, they stopped abruptly, looking at the blonde. After giving them a brief and casual glance, he disappeared into Shunshin, heading for Hakage. And from there he planned to pick Itachi up and find out about everything. This is the territory of the Uchiha clan. What was he doing here? Sasuke asked himself, going out to the chapter. Come on, maybe you needed something. Akiri tried to calm him down, even though she herself had a bad feeling. I think you're right, it's not worth dwelling on it. Sasuke smiled, and the girl immediately felt better. While talking, they did not even notice how they reached the academy. There were already a lot of people there, most of the children were clan. Standing as close as possible to the place from where Hokage would speak, they began to wait. Sasuke himself wanted to go to the enrollment ceremony without his parents. He wanted to share this time with Sakiri because she was dear to him. I am pleased to see all of you here. You are the future of our village. The academy is only the first serious step in your life. Hokage, who, by the way, has already talked to Naruto about the unknown Anbu that attacked him in the morning, came. I'm sure that each of you will become a worthy shinobi in the future. Children with open mouths and admiring eyes listened to the speech of the old man, who was the third Hakage. We are counting on you. At the end of his half-hour speech, he bowed low, which none of them would. I didn't expect children, but such a gesture gave them a kind of awareness that they could become great shinobi. Will this turn out to be an ordinary trick, a simple illusion of hope or not? The answer will come in time. Hurrah! Shouting, the girl jumped on Sasuke for a few seconds for joy. Seconds ago, she heard that they would be in the same class. The guy, not expecting this, almost fell, but still managed to hold on. From a kiss on the cheek, he blushed, lowering his eyes to the floor. Let's go. From such a reaction, Akiri laughed, then took his hand. Kisaki dragged him inside the academy. Yeah, the guy said softly, stroking the place where he was kissed. Going into a classroom where there were a lot of people, they found a place by sitting next to each other. Because of the fact that the children all got to know each other, told something. They laughed. There was such a noise that the explosions on the battlefield would have been much quieter. My name is Hinata Hyuga, and what about you? Sitting down with the guys, a beautiful girl with slightly disheveled hair asked. A distinctive feature of the Hyuga clan were white eyes, as if there were no. They were blind, but in fact everything was diametrically opposite. My name is Akiri Uchiha, nice to meet you. Smiling, the girl said. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. Also smiling, the guy replied, let's be friends, to which our couple responded joyfully and quickly. With a quick nod. That's how friends are made so quickly. So, the children all sat down in their seats, loudly so that everyone could hear, said a middle-aged man, entering the classroom. The children quickly calmed down, sitting down in the empty seats, accepting to listen to the newcomer. Me, for I will be your teacher in the next 4 years. Naruto, meanwhile, having found Itachi's chakra, was moving in her direction. Jumping on the last tree, behind which there was a view of a small clearing, in the middle of which there was a large lake with crystal clear water, he stopped. A girl was sitting on the shore, looking at the reflection of the sky and the sun in the water surface. Itachi, calmly approaching her, began Naruto. What did that guy want from you? You heard it all yourself. She turned her head and looked sadly into his eyes. The guy's eyes. I've only heard the part about him helping you destroy the Chiha clan. The girl just nodded absently. But why was it necessary to destroy the clan? And who benefits from it? I have already been given an order, which I am obliged to fulfill in a month. Quietly, so much so that rare gusts of wind drowned out the words, Itachi said. Who and why? Danza. You know, it's very complicated. My father, the head of the clan, is plotting a coup. Everyone supports him. I just didn't have a choice. Clasping her knees, she pressed them to her chest with her hands, resting her head on them, closing her eyes, firm, which tears poured out. Now it's clear, but still, who is that type, and how did he find out about your assignment? The guy said thoughtfully. After which he turned his gaze to the girl, seeing her morale. Sighing, he moved closer, then hugged her, hugging her to him. Everything's fine, and Tachi will find a way out of this situation, don't worry. With his right hand, he stroked the girl's hair. Why did he do that? He didn't know himself, he didn't want to see tears in her eyes. She was a friend to him, whom he had met for the first time in so many years. There is no way out here, the girl whispered resignedly, burying her nose in the guy's chest, hugging him. Believe me, there may not always be a way out, but there is one out of this situation, and I even know which one. The guy smiled, and a desire for revenge flashed in his eyes. And what is it? The girl asked, looking up at the guy. A secret. He smiled, putting his finger to her lips. But you don't have to worry about it, just guess. Trust me. Itasha didn't answer anything, just buried her face in his shoulder again, covering her eyes. He's so warm, the girl thought a little embarrassed. Naruto himself only continued stroking her hair, looking at the sky. Sasuke and Akiri left the academy and headed to home. The first day at the academy passed quickly. The teacher and the students themselves got to know each other, telling some facts about themselves. For example, what they like and what they don't. So how was your first day at the academy? The girl asked, walking level with the guy, holding him by a hand with a wide smile, happily looking into his eyes, waiting for an answer. I'm glad that we are in the same class. I think this day can already be considered a success. The guy smiled, squeezing Akiri's hand harder. You're right, the rest of the way home was discussed today. While talking, they themselves did not notice how they had already entered the territory of the Uchiha clan. See you tomorrow, Sasuke. She stood up a little on her toes, kissed him on the cheek, and then turned right, walking towards the house. See you tomorrow, Akiri. After going home, he greeted his parents as he walked into the kitchen. How was the first day at the academy? Gently patting the guy's hair. Mikoto, Sasuke's mother, asked carefully. "Everything is fine. We met everyone today." Smiling, he replied, pulling a plate of food closer to him. Mikoto and Fugaku were happy for their son. It had been a long time since they had seen him as happy as he was today. So the whole evening flew by talking. "It's a pity there is no Tachi. I think she would be glad to hear." "To hear about your first day at the academy," Mikoto said. A cold stream of water possessed her hands, with which she began to wash the plates. "But the sister is busy, it will always be possible to tell her later," the guy said with a smile. Getting up from the table and heading to his room. "Today was an emotionally difficult day, I needed rest." "Good night." "Good night, Sasuke," said Fugaku, smiling warmly at his son, who had already disappeared into the darkness of the corridor. "Life is beautiful. I hope that every day will be." Like falling asleep with a smile on his face, the guy thought hopefully, putting his right hand on his cheek. Sasuke came so happy. Do you think he liked the academy? Mikoto sat down on the sofa next to her husband, resting her head on his shoulder. "I think so," Fugaku replied with a smile. Meanwhile, Naruto, picking up Itachi, who managed to doze off, slowly walked towards the Uchiha quarter, trying not to wake the girl. The sun had long since disappeared below the horizon, and the moon was trying its best to illuminate the world. But it turned out rather weakly. "Itachi, wake up," the guy whispered in her ear, slightly tilting his head. The girl opened her eyes and stared at the guy. "We are already on the territory of the Uchiha clan, it's time for you to go home." Naruto carefully put the girl on the ground, then, waving his hand and smiling warmly, disappeared into Shunshin, not even giving her a chance to thank. "Thank you," she said into the void with an exhausted smile, heading for her home. Naruto was right, the girl needed rest. The guy himself found himself near the place where the person most dear to him lay under the thickness of the earth. The one who died a little less than 100 years ago, the one who became his father. "As I said, I came," sitting down on the cold grass, Naruto said, raising his gaze to the full moon. "If you only knew how much I miss you, I have so much to tell you." That's just. He fell silent for a while, coldly looking at the sleeping world around. The dead don't hear. Rising to his feet, he headed towards the mountain with the faces of Hokage. "One day we will meet, and even then I will tell you about everything that I experienced before I left," Naruto thought. Waking up the next day, stretching, the guy looked at his watch at 7 o'clock in the morning. Well, it's time to see what the Uchiha clan turned into. Quickly getting up and getting dressed, redoing all the morning chores. Naruto created a clone, disappeared into Shunshin, hiding his chakra before that. The clone was left to distract Itachi, who will definitely come today, to continue surveillance at least for a while. Quickly finding himself on the territory of the founder's clan, the guy disappeared into the dense green foliage of one of the trees. He always liked to observe life in the village, both before and after moving. True, he usually watched from the height of the mountain with the faces of Hokage, but now the conditions are a little different. However, the occupation remained the same. There were quite a lot of people walking by. The blonde did not feel aggressive in any of them. Everyone looked quite cheerful and cheerful. On the street, back and forth, Uchiha in the uniform of the Kanahi military police, who monitor the order in the village, passed every now and then. After sitting on a tree for about 20 minutes, Naruto, using Henji, went for a walk down the street. Thus, he hoped that he would be able to eavesdrop on at least something important, for example, conversations about the upcoming coup. Turning the corner, hiding in a doorway still damp from yesterday's rain, he saw several men who were discussing something in the shade from everyone. "I can't wait for this day when they all pay," the end of the sentence was heard from one of the men. But after they saw Naruto wandering into the alley, they immediately became serious. Fuck, Naruto thought, realizing the situation he was in. Apparently, they were just discussing the upcoming coup, sharing their own thoughts about the near future. "I'm sorry, you don't know, Fugaku is at home by herself." That was the first thing that came to the guy's mind. With such a question, he could deflect suspicion from himself, which, it seems, he managed to do. Shinobi immediately relaxed after the question, and even smiled. Of course, today is his day off. The man who was closest to Naruto smiled. Thank you. Smiling faintly, he turned 180 degrees and slowly walked back to the main street. It seems to have passed, the blonde man thought, going out onto the main street, turning right. It was dangerous. I don't want to get into trouble. After passing for about an hour and not finding any more interesting information, Naruto sat down under one of the sprawling trees. I was thirsty. I would have to walk to the supermarket and buy water, and then walk to the academy. See what the new generation of Kanahi is like in general, and Chi in particular. So where have you been? He heard the girl's slightly angry voice from somewhere above. It was Itachi. Naruto immediately felt it. He went out for a walk, disappearing into the Shumshina. He found himself on the same branch with her, standing a little behind. She found him too quickly, which is not good. However, he has already learned that the coup actually takes place, although there is no absolute proof of this. Why all this circus? I've been looking for you all over the village for 10 minutes. From the girl's tone, he immediately realized that she was very, very unhappy with him. Sorry, the guy waved off, jumping back to the ground. I'm going to the store for water, and then I'm going to look at the younger generation of shinobi. And there was nothing left for her to do but move around behind the guy unnoticed by the others. Fool, the girl thought discontentedly, carefully following Naruto. And why does he need it? He walked around the territory of the clan. Now he goes to observe the students of the academy. It's strange, the blonde had already managed to buy himself some water and walk to the academy, jumping up a tree to her. Firm where the academy's training ground was clearly visible.